Okay. I'm going to test this mic, see if I was able to fix the problem. Really quick. Nope, not fixed. So it's my mic. That sucks. That really sucks. And I don't have any way to test it other than just going live because I'm out of storage on my StreamYard. Life. Hey, Junior. Okay, so we left off with how's the mic sound? The internal microphone. Because I hope I didn't throw that other one away. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Testing this one. All right. Let's see how that sounds. How does this microphone sound? Is it better than before? Let me know. If it's loud enough, now I'm not getting internet service. If it's loud enough. Now my internet service is dropped. So that's fun. So fun. Like, rough. I should have just, I'm so stubborn though. I should have just like finished it up another day, but I know myself. I won't ever get back to it. I'll just be like, nah, I'll just leave it hanging, not finish it. So, have I not dropped? Now it's showing that I have bars. I'm gonna send you my phone number because when I'm not on the screen, I can't see if something goes awry. So text me and then it'll pop up. Okay. Don't feel like you have to be here the whole time at all, but oh, my mom. She's so special. Okay. Hey, CJK. Hey, Lisa. Okay. All right. I'm going to go back to doing what I was doing before. Hopefully it all works out. You know. What is this background? Oh my God. I'm so over it. Okay. We left off with at 4/29, so April 29th of 2024, there was two filings on this day, one by the state, one by the defense. I already read the one by the state, so we're reading the one that was filed by the defense on the 29th of April at 5:13 p.m. The defense's fourth Frank motion based on newly discovered evidence. Just as it pertains to geofencing, phones, pinging, digital forensics. This is not the entirety of the Franks. These 2 pages indicate that Steve Mullen contacted Sergeant Mitch Blocher of the Indiana State Police at approximately 9 p.m. on February 13, 2017 to assist with acquiring precise location information for a cell phone using some of their more technical assets. It appears that the last communication with Sergeant Bloucher was prior to 1 a.m. on February 14th of 2017. The 2 pages provided to Mr. Allen's counsel contained the following summary of a conversation between Steve Mullen and Sergeant Bloucher of the Indiana State Police. Quote, Sergeant Blocher advised, according to his evaluation of the data provided by AT&T, the last contact event between the cell phone and the tower located at West Wells Street was at 17:44:50 hours. He advised that according to the records provided by AT&T, there had been no contact with the phone. So this is AT&T is her provider. Okay, I think we just cleared something up. Maybe, but I don't know. He still said that AT&T with the map thing was from AT&T's report. But her phone provider was AT&T. So the last contact event between the cell phone and the tower located at Wells Street, the one there in Delphi, was at 17:44:50 hours. He advised that according to the records provided by AT&T, there had been no contact with the phone since then. Sergeant Blacker advised that his interpretation of the information which we were receiving from AT&T indicated the cell phone was no longer in the area or no longer in working condition. So this little sentence here is what they've gone back and forth about since April. It's September. The conversation above appears to have occurred prior to 1 a.m. on February 14th of 2017. There is no conversation. On November 9th of 2023, the prosecution provided Mr. Allen's counsel with evidence of 44 pings generated by AT&T to locate Libby German's phone. This comes up in other stuff, so that's why it's highlighted to remember to compare it to as we get the chronological order, okay? So they're going to call them pings from here and after. There were 2 pings from February 13th of 2017 in the pings. I hate saying that word. There's all these P's provided to defense counsel at 5:48 p.m. and 7:16 p.m. Mr. Allen's counsel did not learn of additional pings which took place every 15 minutes on February 13th until the discovery disclosed on April 26th of 2024. Defense counsel still does not have the additional pings from February 13th or the early morning of February 14th, pursuant to the information which the prosecution disclosed to Mr. Allen's counsel. The first ping on February 14th was sent to Libby German's phone at 5:39 and 41 seconds a.m. So they pinged her phone at 5:39 in the morning on the 14th. More importantly is Sergeant Bloucher's statement that his interpretation of the information which they were receiving from AT&T indicated that the cell phone was no longer in the area or no longer in working condition. The prosecution's entire case rests on, so this is the crux of it. Entire case rests on the idea that Libby German and Abigail Williams were on or very near the south side of the Monon High Bridge at 2:13 p.m. and that Richard Allen killed them between that time. I can't even believe they said that statement in their own documents. That's even just to like suppose it from stating what the defense is saying. Like, I can't believe they didn't reword that time. And when a witness allegedly saw a man in blue jeans and a blue jacket on 300 North shortly before 3:57 p.m. In other words, assuming the prosecution's evidence is accurate, Libby and Abby were murdered after 2:13 p.m. and before 3:57 p.m. on February 13th. This, and anything in blue is what I've added, and I added this is solidified by Cicero. So which is more than just the cell phone data, in my opinion. If the phone was brought back and or turned on at 4:33, how does that mean that they were physically taken and or killed somewhere else just because of the phone? Which, that's just a question I have. You can think it's stupid or not, but I don't know why the two. I think that Sergeant Cicero's testimony is way more valid than the phone. Because his testimony is based on crime scene evidence, like blood splatter, and he goes into talking, and which will be even more. They've already deposed him, Dr. Course. So even though they may not have an exact time of death, which they're not going to. It's going to be an approximate anyway. Unless you die in front of a doctor or someone that has the right training in order to get the exact time of death, and the coroner, he was crazy. That's an elected position. So Carroll County voted this kid in. He was literally 23 years old, maybe, if that. He was going to college at Purdue. His dad was the former coroner in Delphi. He retired, and his name is Jordan Cree. Jordan Cree, Cree. And yeah, so he was not even, this is Carroll County. Like, this isn't, and they were missing. There was no coroner on the wait. Like, there was no one that was like, oh, they're definitely been murdered. We better call the coroner and get him to where he can, be near. So he was at Purdue, which isn't that far, but still. But he is the elected coroner in Carroll County. He has to be there to do the death certificate and all that kind of stuff. And Dr. Coors is someone that is not in Carroll County, but he is, his reputation is pretty outstanding in the state of Indiana. Like, when he's the pathologist, like, that's a pretty big deal. And so he is, but even like, find me autopsies where it's like they have like an exact time of death. Like, I just don't get it. I don't get where this proves anything either way. Because you basically have to throw out the findings of the forensic pathologist, the findings of, we don't even know what Jordan Cree has said about this, the coroner, and the Sergeant Cecil and others in the field of like data, like collection of evidence. So to base, I don't know. I think it's a very weak stance to take in order to get for the motion in limine. Like, it's just like, it's when you have all of this additional testimony that was heard by the judge, okay, especially with Cicero. So additionally, assuming this timeline is accurate, the prosecution would have the girls between the Monon High Bridge and the location where the bodies were found from 2:13 on February 13th, 2017, the bridge video, until they were found at approximately 12:15 p.m. on February 14th of 2017. 18. At the time the bodies of Abby and Libby were found, Libby's phone was under Libby's shoe, both of which were under the body of Abby. So the phone is under Libby's shoe, which is under the body of Abby. Assuming the prosecution timeline is accurate, Libby's phone was under Libby's shoe, which was under the body of Abby from sometime after 2:13 on February 13th until the bodies were found at approximately 12:15 on February 14th, and had remained at that location in that condition for that entire time. However, Sergeant Bloucher stated on February 13th that the cell phone was no longer in the area or no longer in working condition. So I believe I have this written down here somewhere, but I'm pretty sure Sergeant Bloucher has passed away from, cancer, but so he can't testify. So Cecil is happened to testify for all of them because he died. Like, was no longer in the area or longer in working condition. There is no way Libby's cell phone could have been out of the area between 9 p.m. on February 13th and 1 a.m. on February 14th if the prosecution's timeline is accurate. There is no way Libby's, this is what they're purporting here, the defense. There's no way Libby's cell phone could have been out of the area between 9 p.m. on the 13th and 1 a.m. on the 14th. If the prosecution timeline is accurate, because the phone was at the location where the bodies were found that entire time. Assuming the prosecution's timeline is accurate, there is no way that the phone was not in working condition between 9 p.m. on February 13th and 1 a.m. on February 14th, because we know the phone was on and communicating with the cell phone tower at 4:33 a.m. on February 14th of 2017. For the prosecution's timeline to work, the phone had to have been in the same condition from sometime prior to 3:57 p.m. on February 13th, the time the witness sees the man on 300 North, until the time the bodies were found on February 14th of 2017. At the time of the search warrant for Mr. Allen's residence, members of the Indiana State Police were also aware that the last ping, this is a Frank's motion. So what is this Frank's motion for? To suppress the fruits of the search warrant of Richard Allen's house, outbuildings, car, all of that. They desperately want that out. Don't tell me it's about the bullet, because they've already held a hearing about the bullet, and that will be for expert versus expert at the jury trial. That's was been established, so what is it? What is it that they want in all of these Franks? Furthermore, it is evident from the data from Libby's phone that the phone was accessed and connected with the cell tower at 4:33 a.m. Now, these are all things to keep in mind. These are all filings prior to the testimonies of Cecil during the state's motion in limine. And this he was I got it all mixed up in here with freaking Perlmutter. I don't know. I've got it saved in here. It'll come up later, but remember this. For Mr. Allen's resident, members of the Indiana State Police were also aware that the last ping of Libby's phone was not at 5:44 p.m. on the 13th of 2017, but at 4:33 and 35 seconds on the AM of February 14th of 2017. Furthermore, it is evident from the data from Libby's phone that the phone was accessed, sorry, I reread that, and connected with the cell tower at 4:33 a.m. Had Tony Liggett submitted an affidavit for the search warrant that did not recklessly disregard the truth, it would have included the following. So this is me in blue, and this, to me, really shows the power of suggestibility of what they're doing right here in this particular filing. So this is what they're saying that Tony Liggett should have put in, that he should have included in his search warrant affidavit for Richard Allen. This is how it should have been written. When the bodies were found at approximately 12:17 on February 14th, there were sticks and branches which appeared to have been deliberately placed on the bodies. Appeared to have been. FBI Special Agent Nicole Robertson stated that the bodies appeared to have been moved and staged. Now, remember, that was a part of Ron Logan's search warrant affidavit for his home. However, it is not. It's not, for one, this is Tony Liggett. He is not in the position that Nicole Robertson, the special agent Nicole Robertson is in, to state something like it appeared to have been moved. The bodies appeared to have been moved in stage. Neither is it crucial to a search warrant affidavit of someone's home. At the time of the murder, Abby was dating Logan Holder. Logan is the son of Brad Holder. Jerry Holman of the Indiana State Police consulted with Professor Jeffrey Turco of Purdue University. This is all what should be included in Richard Allen's search warrant affidavit for his home. Okay. According to them, Purdue University professor Jerry Turco wrote in a report provided to Unified Command that the markings referring to the configuration of the branches on the girls' bodies constitute an inscription inscribed by Norse runes or modern recreations thereof is quite plausible. What? Why didn't the defense subpoena Turco to testify at the hearing? This was my question. In 2017, Brad Holder belonged to a group of practicing and following Nordic pagan beliefs. Brad Holder posted pictures on Facebook mimicking the crime scene. Abby and Libby were killed at 2:13 and before 3:57 on February 13th of 2017. During that time, there were 3 phones in the area where the girls were last seen and the location where the bodies were found. None of these phones belonged to Richard Allen. On February 13th and 14th, 2017, law enforcement requested AT&T ping Libby's phone every 50 minutes. The time of the last ping to Libby's phone on February 13th was 5:44 p.m. And the time of the first ping on February 14th was 4:33 a.m. Indiana State Police believe that Libby German's cell phone was either out of the area of the Well Street Tower or not in working condition between 5:44 p.m. on February 13th and 4:33 a.m. on February 14th, at which time there was a successful ping to the phone. You've got to be kidding me. What would be... No, I'm sorry, you're not like the Frank's hearings getting denied by the judge. Like, I'm not a real big goal fan, but like, no, like that this should have been included in the search warrant. You know how many search warrants of people's homes that they have for this case in particular, and how many searches that they did with the consent of the homeowner for this case in particular, like this actual case? I personally know of at least 4, like personal information as to 4 different search warrant affidavits that were drafted by law enforcement to search someone's home on this particular case that are not any of the names that you know as the public. People don't know these names of these people. One is, I also know of one that was like, I know of a few that were like, yeah, go ahead. They signed consent to search this one property in particular. And the owner consented to that search. Therefore, they didn't need to go and get a warrant. However, if they had gone into this particular place and they had found something, they would have stopped. This is procedure. They would have stopped. They would have held the scene, and they would have got a search warrant. Like, that's what would have happened. That's what would have happened. Like, you can look that up. I'm not just like flying this out of my ass. But do you think that this information is relevant? I don't. That's a jump. But it is very it's very, the suggestibility of this right here is pretty evident. 26th, these omissions are so voluminous and significant that there is no explanation for their omission other than a reckless disregard for the truth. Here we go, getting Shakespearean. Had Tony Liggett not recklessly withheld pertinent information from his probable cause affidavit on the search warrant, the application would have been denied. No. Just no. This doesn't fly in a court of law, people. It doesn't. It doesn't fly. Okay, so on April 30th of 2024, this is the defense, again, this is their response to the state's motion in limine and request for hearing. On number 9, the state seeks to limit the defense's ability to challenge the state's geofencing expert, Kevin Horan, based on relevance. The state's request is overly broad, contains no specific facts, which the state is seeking to limit, and usurps the defendant's Sixth Amendment right to present defense. Therefore, the state's request should be denied. Look at the date of this. This is April 30th of 2024. Judge Gall heard the testimony of specifically Kevin Horan in the end of July and the August hearings that were held for the motion in limine and all the other ones. On May 17th of 2024, and remember in here, this is when Cecil says he was deposed somewhere in May, and diligently doing his job, he is doing any updates that come through. It seems like he uses Magnet when the originals used Celebrate. And the defense says that none of this was included, but then they also give they give themselves a caveat of, well, maybe we just can't find it. But those are all things that are not particular to this, but they've been ruled upon. So again, May 17th, this is the state's response to the fourth Franks hearing filed by the defense. So this is the state of Indiana. The new topic that the defense focus on in the fourth, how are we doing? Yeah. Oh, good. You looked it up. But there is quite the kerfuffle over it. Yeah, Junior, they're really reaching on this. The information in the motion show that the defense does not understand. Okay, wait, I think I skipped. The new topic that the defense focus on in the fourth Franks motion is the AT&T pings. The defense includes in this motion information about pings generated by AT&T on February 13th through February 14th, 2017. The defense also includes statements made by Sergeant Bloucher when he was consulted by Steve Mullins about the pings. The information in the motion show that the defense does not understand the information contained in the pings and then exacerbates the problems by mischaracterizing the statements by Sergeant Bloucher. Further, contrary to what the defense motion states, the defense has known about the pings well before April 26th of 2024 discovery disclosure. When AT&T pings a phone, they will send a signal from the tower nearest the cellular device to that cellular device. This is why I read all of those definitions. From the time it takes the signal to reach, this is the latency time. The word for what he's saying right here. So you can look up latency time on your own in conjunction with pings. Nearest the cellular device to that cellular device, from the time it takes the signal to reach the device and get back to the tower, they will determine a location of that device. The location be accurate at times, but can be completely inaccurate at times. If the tower cannot make cellular contact with the device, then the ping data will show a historical data location. Historical data location. That comes into play when we start breaking down the every 15-minute ping of the phone, because they were missing. Where is it? That means the server provider will show a location from the historical data collected from the device. It is the last longitude and latitude collected from the tower. So that is GPS, that's like when it had good service with the device. Like you need it, like in order to Google something on, Google Earth, you have to, and like you have to have the latitude and longitude of it. I've heard some people saying that means they know that the phone was like laying down versus the phone was like up in the air. And that's not what that means. Maybe they could, I don't know. No, I'm not even going to maybe that. That's a no. The location given comes within an inaccuracy range anywhere from 400 meters up to 25,000 meters. Those inaccuracy ranges can differ based on several factors. A tower can lose contact with the device because the device runs out of power or because the device loses cellular service. That's why I think the SMS messages are like a pretty telling thing. It is not always an accurate way to locate a device, but can be used as a tool to help determine the location. So it can be used as a tool. Now, this is a quote. In our current case, when the girls went missing, law enforcement contacted AT&T and asked AT&T to ping the cell phone of Liberty German. This was done in an effort to locate the girls. The pings came in from AT&T every 15 minutes. That means that AT&T would send an email to law enforcement every 15 minutes showing the ping results of pinging Liberty's phone. Again, like that historical data. So if it didn't, they're just going to show where like I was talking to you guys about my geofence, like it'll ping, like if you have your, it'll ping from where you were. And if like there isn't a connection that is made in between that time, then it will show the historical data of where that phone last picked up service with the cell tower. You go like, yeah. So historical data and not live data. The defense deposed Indiana State Police Sergeant Greg Edwards on February 27th of 2024. Okay. So they were whining about like, they wanted the money for their own expert. Like, I feel like they should definitely have one. Not sure why they don't, because the money is there for that. Like, I don't remember the goals, rulings on that kind of stuff, but they deposed Greg Edwards on February 27th of 2024. So this is February 27th of 2024 is before all of these filings that they have put forth for the public's consumption. Sergeant Edwards, for his review, Sergeant Edwards explained the data in the pings to the defense at that time. Sergeant Edwards stated, so this is a quote from the deposition of Greg Edwards on February 27th of 2024. So those emails, because they did ask to depose, the defense asked to depose the state's experts so that they didn't have to use their money, like the defense money, for this, which makes sense. So the emails begin coming in, and you've got this text block that has to do with, again, the case ID or the number that they've assigned to it. AT&T has assigned to it. You can tell this is just transcribed. You've got the mobile number. So the phone number that is assigned to that device that they're currently pinging, and we can see the last 4 digits here are 7599. Confidence level. So that's period there. Confidence level, they might put in whether or not that was a high confidence location for it, meaning that they had a lot of good information coming in from the device and from the tower network to say it's real close within this area. They might say it's a low confidence area, meaning that it's quite large. And here they aren't even listing a confidence area. So I don't know what to say about that confidence area because, again, like it's not showing up in the report as far as what is the confidence, high or low, just there's nothing there. Sometimes the confidence level, they'll have a size in meters. So say that this is within 1,000 meters. We believe that the device is somewhere within 1,000 meters of this geolocation. So that's what they'll list in the confidence area. Then the latitude and the longitude. So they give you a latitude and longitude coordinate so you can plot that on the map. Okay. And then radius, location accuracy unknown. So they didn't give us, that's why there's no confidence level. There's no number of meters from that geo point. You guys like understanding this part? So this is pretty crucial here. That associated with it. And then I guarantee you that this is not specific to, like, you could find another like deposition by Sergeant Edwards speaking as to this very topic on another case, and it's going to be the same. So just keep that in mind. There's no, so where did I leave off? That's why there's no confidence level. There's no number of meters. So this is the really important part, that the geo point, so that latitude and longitude is the pinpoint, and then there is a circumference of that, a radius, radius. But they don't have a accuracy level. It's unknown. So they don't actually know how accurate that latitude and longitude radius, the radius of the latitude and longitude are. Because that would be pretty significant because, one of the phones could be Ron Logan. One could be Brad Weber. One could be, what's that other house that's right in there just past Ron Logan's? Or what's her name on the bridge? The witnesses that didn't see Abby and Libby and didn't see Richard Allen, but they were there that day on the bridge. The one girl took photos. It could have been her for all we know. It could have been the two other people that were there, or three other people that were there with the phone. Like, even if it is within a radius of where in and around the crime scene, that's how far the radius could be. And it could include any of those that I just mentioned, let alone cars driving by, someone visiting the cemetery, putting some flowers down by their dead mother's grave. Like, and with the way I've been there, so with the way that hill is at the cemetery, like that's not an odd thing to think, because you got to take into account the what's it called? The, like, not graphology, but like the inclines and declines, the massive hill, the creek, like all of the hills on the other side. Like, you have to take those things into account too. I mean, it does on other things outside of this case. So I think it would be important for this case as well. If that makes a lick of sense. So they're going back and they're collecting information from the historical call detail records. So it's not remember what he said there about not being live when they can't get a ping when the ping comes in at 15 minutes, say they got one at the 5:44, they got one at 10. Everything in between there would just show the historical data because the phone wasn't actually able to connect. And then when it did, it connected long enough at 4:30 in the morning that her phone received messages, even though it states that like her phone was not used. Nothing was read, nothing was opened, no messages were sent, nothing. There was no activity on the phone because of the user, which would be Libby or Abby or the killer. But that the phone started receiving SMS messages, which can also be iMessages. We learned that, and that's why there was duplicates. It's the way of the software, collects the data. So then he says, Sergeant Edwards later says, with AT&T, part of the reason why it says historical here is that if they say, all right, we're going to ping that phone, but they can't get the phone, well, then they'll use the last location, the last loan location from the historical records. So that is different than the live ping. It's going back to the historical records saying we can't find the phone right now, but here's where we know it was last. We can't find the phone right now, but here's where we know it was last. So that's going to be the report of the every 15 minutes, which the defense had told us was like 18,000 and some, spreadsheet line down full. Why can't I ever remember where I leave off? So they all show historical data. The ping emails collected all show historical data. That means that the tower could not find the phone at the moment the ping was initiated. So it just gave the service provider the historical data location. That doesn't mean the phone wasn't in the area. That doesn't mean the phone that wasn't in the area or that the phone wasn't in working condition. It means that the tower could not contact the phone. That's historical data. That historical data continues through all the pings. Sergeant Edwards did his very best to explain to the defense the information on the ping returns. He attempted to explain to them how pings work, what the latitude and longitude data means, and what historical location means. The defense still does not understand how to interpret the pings from AT&T. The pings from AT&T show the location of the phone through historical data. That means that the tower is not contacting the phone. The defense then goes on to mischaracterize Sergeant Bloucher's statements contained in Steve Mullen's report. Sergeant Bloucher reports from his evaluation. The last contact that the phone had with the cellular tower was 5:44 p.m. on February 13th. The records from AT&T show that there has been no contact with the tower since then. From that information, he determined that the phone was no longer in the area or no longer in working condition. The defense wants this to mean that the phone is not in the area. From the evening of the February 13th of 2017 until the morning of February 14th, that is not what it means. It means that since the pings were only showing the historical data location, the phone was not having contact with the tower. Sergeant Bloucher explained that could be because the phone was not in the area, but it could also mean that the phone was not working. This is consistent with the pings collected from February 13th through the 14th, 2017, that the pings are giving an estimated longitude and latitude based on the historical location information, not live pings. And while this is specific to her phone, it also does apply to the three other things. That's why I said his testimony could apply to other cases, other proportions of this case. I don't know. The information that we have is that the girls were dropped off at the trails at 1:30 on February 13th, and that at 2:13, their kidnapper ordered them down the hill. There is no evidence that the girls were ever taken from the area or that they were brought back to the area later to be murdered. Every indication is that they were ordered down the hill and then murdered soon after. And this is me in my opinion. Again, this is more so backed up by Cicero than the phone. I know that in my Life 360, there are times that our phones will show the last place the phone was, then jump to the live ping of where the phone is. Airplane mode, or when there's no tower that picks up a live ping. And this does happen. This happened to me on my way to the Delphi courthouse. This happened to me on the way to the White County courthouse, literally just within this last few months. My phone lost service, so it lost connection with the cell tower that was keeping me on track of where the hell I'm going. And then by the time it picked back up on a tower that it found, my phone had done redirected me, and I ended up taking me an hour and a half to get somewhere that should have only been an hour, like 30 minutes of redirecting because my phone kept dropping the service. Therefore, I wasn't getting the notification that I needed to turn left here. And since I am directionally challenged, I rely on that. Now, maybe I need to not use Google Maps. I don't know. My kids keep saying, oh my gosh, Mom, that's why you need to not use Google Maps. Well, I don't know how to work the thing in my phone, in my car. I literally don't. It's got a big screen and it has all these things on it. No, I don't know. And anytime I try to use it, I'm already rolling and then it won't let me. And I'm just like, whatever. But yeah, I mean, does that not like make any sense? Does this not happen to anybody else on a regular? Like, and I live in like Brownsburg, and it happens here at my house all the time. When I lose connection with my own damn, like, that's a little different, but oh, so frustrating. The historical location data from the AT&T pings does not mean the phone was not in the area during the evening of February 13th until the morning of the 14th. And it is another example of the defense taking information and stating that it means something that it doesn't. This is consistent throughout all their Franks motions. The state has outlined the test used in Franks and its prior responses. In order to have a Franks hearing, the defense's attack on probable cause must be based on deliberate falsehood or acts of reckless disregard for the truth, and those allegations must be accompanied by an offer of proof. And they have had multiple offers of proof by Judge Gall, like, okay, prove it. Like, I'm going to extend an offer of proof. They still have one in there for things of that took place in the hearing. Like, well, if you can show me an offer of proof, which is show me some evidence, show me something instead of just stating stuff, show it to me. And they don't. And they habitually don't. The claim should point out specifically the portion of the warrant, a warrant affidavit that is claimed to be false and should be accompanied by affidavits or sworn statements or reliable statements of witnesses. The defense must show that there is inaccurate or omitted information and the probable cause is lacking if the omitted information is included. Franks versus Delaware. Herein, the defense claims omissions, if included, would negate right here, negate it would. So if they included that, the little lead you to what they want you to believe the probable cause should contain, which is, I'm sorry, but that's asinine. That's not how any of this works, and they know it. They know it. The defense claims omissions, if included, would negate probable cause for the search warrant of Richard Allen's residence. The defense has not met its burden. The omitted information from the AT&T pings does not negate the fact that Richard Allen places himself on the bridge at the same time that Liberty German took the video of the bridge guy who ordered the girls down the hill. Further, Richard Allen admits that he was wearing clothing matching the clothing the bridge guy was wearing that day. And his wife said he had them as well. So some corresponding testimony to that. That along with other eyewitness testimony and the other evidence gathered establishes probable cause that Richard Allen is bridge guy and he is the one who kidnapped the girls. This is just a question that's not been answered. Like, where was Richard Allen's phone? Like, and in my opinion, cell phone data needs to be supported by other evidence always. I personally would not be able to convict or acquit someone based on their phone alone. Absolutely not. Like in that case that I just watched the hearing, it was the Life 360. So that immediately catches my attention because I've been paying for that and it's been worth every dollar. I get reports, I get crash reports, I get a weekly report of 3 of my loved ones driving. And that is just worth the money. So of course, when we see a case that is based on that, there was supportive evidence to the Life 360 that was given by expert testimony. There was witnesses. There was video camera footage that was like not like on buildings that saw, okay, so Life 360 says this. Well, we also have this camera footage from the gas station or whatever building it was that also sees him driving by in his truck. This one didn't catch the license plate, but this one did. And then here's where the Life 360 is. And it literally goes through the whole entire case. They never just absolutely rely on the geolocating or the geofencing of like the geolocating of these phones traveling together, because they have that as well. But the victim had Life 360 installed on her phone. That means that her mother was paying for Life 360 to keep an eye on her daughter. And thank God. And it was supportive, but the evidence, it was all supportive of. It wasn't just independent of itself. So what have they actually proved? Where is the offer of actual proof other than they found this? Do you know how many names are in that discovery of inquiries? Oh my God. Like I don't even understand how they can get away with naming these people without any like actual proof, other than now all of a sudden it's dawned on them in the fourth Franks, not the first Franks, the second Franks, a little bit in the third and then into the fourth, that, oh my gosh, look at this, Brad Holder's phone. He doesn't have an alibi for 4:33 a.m. Okay. The state was like, fine, well, if it gets this testimony over and us, like, they're just like, we will agree with the defense that the phone received all of these SMS messages and connected with the tower at 4:33 a.m. Like, can we move on? Like, we will concede that. Like, yes, it did do that. And they still were like, no, because it's about how many of these messages are, which made no sense. Augur did that. And it made no sense. It didn't even go along with the data that she was like arguing. It was so weird. Wherefore now comes the state of Indiana by prosecuting. I'm not reading all that. He did say something about the motion contains nothing more than their beliefs about what the AT&T pings mean without an understanding of what the data means. Sheriff Tony Liggett did not intentionally or recklessly omit evidence or lie about evidence in the probable cause affidavit to support the search warrant in an effort to mislead the judge. The facts in the affidavit are true and accurate and are supported by evidence collected in the case. Sheriff Tony Liggett relied on that. I think it's weak. I think it's weak as hell. Like the search warrant affidavit and the indictment affidavit. But what I think and how I feel and how I've seen other ones that are more detailed doesn't mean shit. Just the same as you. It doesn't mean anything. It's what you can prove, what the court needs for this. And again, I'm not going to give it up. The defense filed for a motion to let bail. That was one of their very first moves when they came on this case. They continued it, which made perfect sense because they were getting the discovery. Richard Allen told the judge, nope, I will find my own counsel. And the judge even told him, like, under, like, you have every right to that is your right with under, the Indiana and the United States Constitution, that you have a right to you're hiring your counsel. Then he comes back later and was like, whoa, which totally understandable why Richard Allen would do both. It's not like he's a pro at it like Greeno, because Greeno's like in and out. He's a habitual criminal. So he would be used to, say that you need and then there's an inquisition into your finances that is done. And based on that, most people get a public defender in murder because there's no way you could afford it unless you're a billionaire or multimillionaire. Wherefore now comes the state. So I'm not reading all that. So it basically just comes down that you have to prove that he acted intentionally, that Liggett acted intentionally, that he recklessly admitted evidence from the affidavit. That does not require the same burden of proof that is required by a jury. But it does if a meaningful bond hearing is actually held, which Judge Gull, rescheduled it for them. It was scheduled. She rescheduled it. They rescheduled it again, and then it was turned into a suppression hearing. Hello, like, to me, that's like a pay attention to this, pay attention to this. All of a sudden they get discovery and they realize, like, did they realize, like, wow, oh boy, oh no, because they never talk about what was found. The defense doesn't talk about what was found in Richard Allen's house. The state has no obligation to the public. They do to a jury. Labredo even, I believe. And he also says there's nothing that is forensic evidence that links Richard Allen to the crime scene, which that statement can be true, along with not telling you all of the truth that is needed to form a actual opinion. There's a lot that is lawyering there about what he said and what the defense says. There's just, hey, why don't you come out? Why are you trying to suppress it? Tell us what is it that you're wanting to express, to suppress? Because it ain't the damn bullet. There's already been a hearing on it. So what is it? Now that we're into the fourth Franks, what else did they find that they're wanting suppressed? This is a very valid question. So in the probable cause to search for his home, the search warrant, it does say it lists his phone number. And then it also lists any other cell phones in this residence. So it asks for the clothing, the ammunition, handguns, knives. No. Cell phone with this particular phone number. Why do they want, why this particular phone number? And any other phones used by Richard Allen will be located on the property. So that's what they wanted, was this particular cell phone number. Did they already have something that connected this cell phone number? They just didn't know what it was. Like, I don't know. I'm just talking out loud. And even him, I don't know what's ever been finalized about it, but the muddied and bloodied, like that's not enough to get a probable cause to a judge to search someone to a judge. Like that is not going to get enough of like, oh, if he hadn't have said bloody, we would have nothing to stand on. But he said muddy and bloody. I ain't gonna make that. That ain't it. That's not gonna like. That's not. You can't even prove bad faith with that. And then the things within the probable cause, which are not covered by what I'm doing right here, but they're definitely relevant. So this is McLeland here, and he's in support of, this filing here. This is the Liggett's search warrant affidavit, and then there's also the charging affidavit, which obviously the defense attorney or the state is going to reference the law enforcement. They're going to write that together. So then we have the defense's second motion to dismiss based on newly. So this is on May 20th of 2024. How's chat doing? Hey, 321 or 3021. Sand Dollar, glad you made it back. Hey, Boston. Yeah, True Crime Web. They did phone testing on site, was pinging all over town, jumped 10 to hundreds of feet in seconds, incorrect at times. Yeah. So aw. What's that called? I don't know what it's called, but Raging Tomatoes chat just joined our live chat. Hey, Fire Nice. Tomato raid coming. That's what it's called. Well, if you're here from Tomato, this is true crime. That's what I do, unless I'm over there talking to her about other fun things. So I'm reading boring old court documents because I don't know, it feels necessary for this case in particular. Hey, Crispy Treat. How are you? She is from the Raging Tomato. Yeah, it is. Because it's not my opinion versus someone's opinion. I learned what spheres were over in your guys' genres, and this particular double murder case of two teen girls in Delphi, Indiana on February 13th has turned into a sphere. It's literally turned into a Delphi sphere of not even really about what it's supposed to be about, it's turned into an extremist left versus right. Richard Allen is innocent. Richard Allen is guilty. And the trial doesn't even start till next month. It's awful. It's awful. Okay, so this is May 20th. I think I already said that. So this is the defendant's second motion to dismiss based upon newly discovered, destroyed, or missing. So again, even without the Franks, they're still. Then this is their second one, to dismiss based upon newly discovered, destroyed, or missing. So they just want to dismiss the case entirely, not just get the search warrant, of his home thrown out, not to suppress that from the jury scene, but just dismiss the entire case based on the newly discovered evidence that they've just been talking about. Says the prosecution failed to turn over one of the key pieces of the evidence for nearly 9 months, and then only after the defense kept requesting the prosecution for the same. It's so repetitive, like we've already like gotten to the bottom of. There's no good faith that the bad faith that they could prove. They continuously leave open-ended statements of like, well, it could just be that there's a massive amount of discovery and we can't find it, or they're purposely withholding exculpatory evidence. Exculpatory is a key word to understand there. Like things that the state cannot withhold things that would clear Richard Allen, that would be exculpatory to him. However, like just because the defense thinks that something is exculpatory doesn't mean that it actually is the truth. It's so. This is a 6+ year investigation with hundreds of thousands of lines of inquiry. Like, I can't. So my thing is like, okay, now they have a list of men, like actual named people of killing 2 girls. A long list of actually named individuals, plus a kid that was a minor at the time is named repeatedly by first name, and his father, and then a bunch of other names. What is to keep them from continuing to do the same thing with the next group of inquiries, just of lines of inquiry that the state went down, the investigators went down in investigating this particular case? What is to keep them from just continually naming more and more? Like, this is wild. They should have stopped it before getting into all of that. Like, they didn't need to do all this. So what are they doing it for? I think they're doing it for you. They're wanting to sway you as like I don't know, like a freaking mock trial. But those hearings that were just held in August, the beginning of August and the end of July were not, I'm telling you, like they're not for anybody. They weren't for the judge. They're literally for the audience, which is moot. Like, Auger knew that Cecil can't testify to whether the girls were kidnapped or abducted. All he can testify to is what extracted from the damn phone. She knows that. There's no way she's been in a defense attorney for as long as she has, plus Baldwin and Rosie, that they know that. Come on. The leap that you have to go to in your mind to think that they don't know that is ridiculous. Like, so therefore, the judge knows that. Who is it for? Who was she saying all that to? I think it was irresponsible to do, because a lot of it, now it's been ruled on. Like you played yourself. Like, and then to call a expert, like, come on. You played yourself right into this. And it's never had validity to stand on anyway. And while I don't like any of them, and I don't, I can see with the situation that happened with the specific channel that was called The Unraveling, they kind of had a split, and it's now called, help me out, Fire Nice, The Domain. It's called The Domain. And he owned all of it. He owned the Google, all the Google accounts. He locked these 2 chicks out of it. They were super mad. And because he was just like, he does a video on it. And I just wasn't like the leap that I would have to go to, basically. I'm just like, wait, what? Why are they so adamant about wanting this thrown out if there's nothing in it? all these statements. Like they're literally, the two chicks were talking to Hoffman, the private investigator for the defense, who has access to this case. Like, and he's telling these two chicks that they have like nothing to do with anything. They're civilians just like me. Information, and clearly with the intention of wanting that information leaked. Come on. Like, let's not be dense. And then like the irresponsibility of that, and so it's not been, it has been an actual slow drip of a leak that wasn't just contained to the crime scene photos with Westerman. And he showed some receipts. Wow. I would, in order for me to just believe him wholeheartedly, like I'm going to need to see those certified, in a court. Like I'm going to need to see a certified copy of this data, because people can fake stuff very easily. So I'm going to need a certified copy. But the things that we do know is that they had a falling out. They unraveled, the three of them. And now he's like telling his truth, to where I think it's pretty shitty to give access to the murder shits, and like do all of that and like out a bunch of people's like private conversations. He did it. So to find out, like, this was the thing, is just like, and again, remember, I personally would need certified like proof that this is authenticated. I would need these text messages and discords and Twitter direct DMs, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I would need them authenticated before I took them to the bank. But let's just go down that line of like, there actually are true, because they're just screenshots of Hoffman talking to these chicks. And then you see these chicks revealing to this Discord group like what was found there, what Hoffman said, the private investigator for the defense. Like, but it says in there, like, they don't, he said, they don't even believe in this Odinism crap. They don't even believe in it themselves. This is possible. Or what? That was the one thing that he said that I really wanted to know more about, and like see more proof. Is there a way to authenticate them? Like, because that is wild that you would have these defense actors acting like the Odinism avenue with all of these men that are named is if they don't even think that's legitimate, so it's just like free Richard Allen, in spite of it. Like, why? Like, you don't even believe this, but you think this is your best shot of getting his case like dismissed, or the fruits of the search warrant suppressed, but you don't even actually believe it yourself. What? I'm going to need somebody to help me with that, because that's crazy that people would intentionally, like, because what he is accusing them of is intentionally leading people down a path of the Odins did it, and it was a ritualistic sacrificial homicide. And there were runes, and the bodies were runes, and there was blood splatter on the tree. There was an actual rune written in the blood of one of the victims, and they were killed with this ceremonial knife, and they have this Perlmutter testify, and like, then to find out that the main ones that are pushing this don't even believe it themselves. Wait a minute, back up. What is that like? Can we get some input on that? Because that's kind of a big forking deal. That's crazy. And again, this is just what was on the domain Paul something coming out and telling his truth. You know, you can take it or leave it. Like I said, I'm going to need it authenticated. But that was wild to hear that they don't even consider this a valid outcome. Like that's something else. I think that they have convinced people that it is absolutely true. But if they don't, the core group of them doesn't even actually believe this, that's really messed up to do to the people that you can influence, who now absolutely believe, based on what's filed in here and what you all say, that this isn't actually this was investigated. You can't say that it wasn't. Like, it definitely was. Just like with Kagan Klein. Even though they probably knew he's a lying mother effer. He's been lying for years and years and years. He's a sick, twisted, perverted person. But they followed that line of inquiry until it ended with, like, no, nothing that he said was going to be in that river. They spent shit ton of money on that. Nothing that he said they would find in that river was connected to the death of Abby and Libby. But they followed it all the way till its end, just like they did with this. Regardless of what these three, they have three detectives, you know, an FBI and one detective and one like Rushville PD officer. And they're like going to the bank, but these three can't even, like, Ferenczi died and it's not related. And the other two, when asked under cross, could you ever place this particular person here on the day of the murders? Could you place them here? No. Did the defense cross? Did they redirect? No. They just left him hanging. Like, that's a basic. Like, that's where you start from. Like, you start from there of like, okay, well, I got this tip based on this particular name. Let's try to figure out if they have like an irrefutable alibi, or like what is the validity and the strength of the alibi. And then you work yourself into the other crap, not the other way around. Like, it's wild. All right. So law enforcement concealed the Bloucher report until April 26th of 2024. Yet there's been no offer of proof that they actually did that. On the 26th, the state of Indiana turned over a report from Steve Mullins concerning the findings of Sergeant Mitch Bloucher of the Indiana State Police. Contained in the report of that report was exculpatory information. Again, with this word right here. That supports that on February 13th of 2017, the victims were not located at the same scene. Let's read it. So exculpatory, which means that this evidence, this discovery from the state excludes, it is exculpatory to our client. It's exculpatory information that supports that on February 13th of 2017, the victims were not located at the same scene as they were found on February 14th of 2017. What is this based off of? One piece of the case and one report from one guy in February of 2017, who actually updated it a few weeks later with the iCloud phone dump. And then it has been repeatedly run back through the software as it updates because of advances in technology. This if they came at me and they Sergeant, I think Cicero had to testify that they could not determine based on the blood at the crime scene that the girls that there was dried or congealed or based on like how it was at the scene and the likelihood that when you look at the bigger picture of the tree from not right up on top of this F, which is goes literally the power of suggestibility right there, which is what the defense has been doing. So they're going to just release this one, F. But if you were to take that and shoot that farther away, you're going to see that the victim died right there. Like, and he testifies to all of this. That's not even getting to Dr. Course, the forensic pathologist. So there's no supportive evidence of the girls not being killed where they were found. And the only thing that happened was their bodies were moved and staged, appeared to be moved and staged, but that they died right there. They were put where they were found, but everything happened right there, and it happened really quick. And the defense did not have one lick of supportive evidence, that no testimony of anyone that backs up this exculpatory information. Therefore, if you were a jury and you heard just this one little thing, would you actually be like, oh, never mind all of the forensics, never mind all the blood, never mind all of the, pathology, the autopsy and all that. Well, they didn't get time of death. Well, throw the whole case out. No. You know why they don't take time of death sometimes? If they have a suspicion that the victim was raped. Why do you think that would be? Or sodomized? Why do you think that would be? So it's just like, there was a suspicion. There was a reasonable suspicion for even the 3-year-old coroner not to take their algor mortis at this particular crime scene when you have a victim that is literally all the way naked. That right there is enough not to do that. So this time of death bullshit is exactly that. It's bullshit. And it is the trying to jump down your throat with not all of the information. We don't know all of the information. We cannot make a determination as the public as to the validity of the time of death. All they have is this Bloucher report with the phone connecting to the tower at 4:30 in the morning. Oh, that means the victims weren't there. They were killed somewhere else and brought back. Yet the evidence at the scene does not support that. But we're supposed to believe that because they tell us to. No, not going to do it. And if I was on a jury, I'd be like, I would laugh. Let alone to ask for the whole case to be dismissed based on this. You got to really take a step back sometimes and look at things, for the validity of the facts that you do know, and reason and logic, and apply this to another case. Like if you heard this for another case, what would you feel about it? Regardless of how you feel, for people to be like, oh, when he the safekeeping, this is a yellow jacket, literally said this on Twitter. When Rick was leaving today, it was all smiles. Oh, because he got, they've been wanting the safekeeping order. That they think there's something to that his rights have been violated, even though it's not supported by the Indiana rules of anything. It's not there. And that the hearing was, he had this without a hearing. There's nothing that states that there needed to be a hearing on this. And they did have a hearing, and they still kept him with the safekeeping order. I bet these same people, I bet Yellow Jacket wouldn't be out there because Derek Chauvin was housed in a maximum security prison as a pretrial detainee. Pretty sure R. Kelly was. Like other people have been. Are you going to have the same vigor for supporting Derek Chauvin? I highly doubt it. I wouldn't either, but I highly doubt that fact alone. Oh my gosh, he's just, it's barbaric to be on suicide watch when you're showing signs of being suicidal. What? They just want him out like willy-nilly in Carroll County or any county surrounding Carroll County? Like that's bananas. That's bananas. Not for a case of this caliber. And guess what? That's why Derek Chauvin was, because it was this George Floyd thing I'm talking about. I mean, that incensed the entire country. But this case in this area, when you have people threatening to kill him online already before it's even adjudicated, like, and they're like, oh, well, he is segregated. Segregated is a nice a way of telling you that he's alone in a cell by himself, solitary at but it's okay because it's different than at the state in the IDOC. Like, I can't. Like, what? I thought that was your whole point. I don't like what suicide watch is either, but like, no, that doesn't move me. And that you're like giving, oh, he was all smart. Like they know this dude. It's so weird. So weird. They don't know him. Like they don't. Like, so weird what's happened. And then the other side, like, I bet they don't know the state. They don't know law enforcement. There may be a few that have like a relationship with them or just like a civil thing or a neighbor or whatever, but like to like they don't know the Patty family. Like they don't know the Abby's family. Like it's just like, stop. Just stay in your lane, people. Just stay in your lane. Because what happens is there's people out there on both sides that misconstrue what y'all say. When you act like this is your BFF and you know them, that they would not be capable of this, and for 100% sure that they're innocent or guilty, and that like, well, you have an inside source or whatever, like, stop it. Because then it just gives y'all a reason to attack each other. Can't you see that? Hey, Jenny. Hey, Caddy. How are you? Or Katie. Katie K. Hey, GP. Glad to have you here. His rights have absolutely been violated. Forced psych meds and kept in solitary for more than 30 days without hearings. It just doesn't stand up, though, Jenny. I know that that's what they're wanting you to believe, that it's just like this outrageous thing. But I just named some other people that have been held in a pretrial detainee and been on suicide watch. You can find them all over. Like, it's not like they're targeting just Richard Allen for constitutional violations. These things get brought up and they don't, they just don't stand up. Like, I know that personally with having what I didn't when I was with the insomnia. And it's happened at post-surgery where they've given me fentanyl. Like, you hear the word fentanyl, and I would have not signed. I would not have given consent. And the person that was there with me to pick me up after surgery did not want them, and they're like, they did it anyway because it was what was best for me, their patient. So the giving him forced medication, that's not going to stand up. It's just not. It's an appeals court is not going to look at that in and of itself and be like, oh, you cannot like it because I don't like it either. I think that the suicide watch with the smock, and I have a whole like thought, this isn't what this is about, but I have a whole side like thing of talking about this specific thing. But I'm going to try to stay on topic here with the geofen stuff. And I need a break. Little questions here. This was from, it's different. It's a different name now. It's not the Unraveling anymore. He's renamed it. They were a triplet pair. There was 3 of them on the Unraveling. It was Paul, then Yellow Jacket, and I guess like Mothman. I don't know. I know their names, but I'm not going to say their names. But he said his name, so I don't feel like that's a problem. And he released his own comments in these messages, but it's called. I just said it earlier. I've already done the domain now. The domain. Maybe if you type in the domain Delphi, it'll pull up. I think it's like 2 hours long, and you have to keep pausing it because you have to keep expanding the screen and reading the stuff. Like I said, though, I take that with a grain of salt because I would want that to be authenticated as actual. It's authenticated by an outside party that this is the actual data from these conversations. Courts do that. Okay. And then Katie K says, culture. So do you believe it wasn't a ritualistic thing? I mean, the crime scene was so weird and it seems to match some of the Odinistic rituals. I'm going to divide that into 2 separate things because ritualistic thing doesn't necessarily go hand in hand with like ritual. What's the definition of ritual? Is just like a repeatedly, like if I have to pull on my ear 3 times, and then I have to take a 10-second break, and then I have to pull on my ear 3 more times because this is going to keep me safe. That's a ritual, so I don't know. I don't agree with, I mean, back in the day when there was rumors of them going down this investigative avenue, before I saw and heard all of the like testimonies and court documents and images, I did. Like I went down that avenue in 2017 and 2018. But like it doesn't hold up under scrutiny. It just doesn't. I mean, and I do also at the same time, I don't see how the Western profiling type of just behavioral analysis would think that this crime scene is indicative of an undoing. Like maybe for one victim. Like I went through today and I'm like, well, no, yesterday, and made this like list of like when you see how Abby was left versus how Libby was left. There's something significant about that to the killer, but it doesn't necessarily like because based on the testimony of Cicero alone, there is no F on the damn tree. There's no evidence of that. And I'm sure if we all saw the zoomed out picture of that crime scene, we would get but when you're releasing like specific things and the sticks, like that, it's weird. It's an odd crime scene. Like I've said, this is a very odd crime scene. There's things out there that you would want to take a picture of, but so throw out the F rune on the tree, like that does not hold up under anything in a court of law. And then you're left with oh, well, fine, if you're going to disregard that. Now look at the bodies. Let's redirect you off that. Let's not think about that. Let's look at the position of the bodies. Well, I'm sorry, but it is very logical to think that you could, if you pulled one victim and you move them and stage them. Staging is a specific word in criminal profiling. That means the crime scene it's a counter measure. It's made to look like something it's not, right? That does not have anything. There's not a signature in that. That is not a compulsion by the killer to do these certain things. Like a compulsion would be, as an example, like trying to think of a serial killer that had a signature, like a compulsion that he left behind, where they were able to, like, when they stood back and saw the victims, they had certain things in common that they had to do. Remember the one guy, ugh, I don't even like saying this out loud, but he he cut off and took with him, the breasts of the victims. And like that's a compulsion. That's like, for whatever reason, like our minds cannot understand that because we're not, that would be like a ritual, a signature, like a compulsion. But staging is not. It is a countermeasure. So it's made to look like something that it's not. And by moving the bodies, like, what was he trying to do? But you could also say, okay, well, if you're pulling a victim from one little place in this specific area to another by both hands, and then you drop both hands, is it really that outlandish that they would land like this if you pulled them like this, just based on like gravity? Or that one of their legs might get hemmed up on the other? Or that if you pulled one victim by one arm, that her body may be dragged to the moved place of where her body was found, with that arm like up and the other one down, just based on the gravity of dead weight pulling by one arm versus two. Like, these are all very relevant things. And it's just like, oh, well, if you mix first, it was just taken to count the branches, which the branches are super weird, but I think they tell a different story. I really do. Like, I think that they, and this is just me, I think they bring even more humiliation and degradation to Libby, and even their placement. But it could be random. It could be to Cicero was just like, well, if like, it could have been unfinished, like the leaves or whatever, like could have been trying to cover them. I don't think that makes sense, because if they were moved to where the crime scene is, they're put in this area, and some killers want their victims to be found. They want to shock, they want that shock value. And with the way that the sticks are on poor Libby, they're literally highlighting her private areas. Like, what is an undoing about that? Because a stick was over her neck? Like, and then on Abby, they're not. Like, I think those things are more specific, and we're just all getting lost in the defense's agenda here. And like, people aren't looking at like, what else could this possibly mean? And that, how in the hell are we like, unless you are inside of his mind or he tells us, then we don't know like what he was trying to do there, you know? But the whole point of this is that you're not going to get anyone that's reasonable to throw out this case completely on this 4:33 a.m. connection to the cell tower. Like, in and of itself, with no supportive evidence whatsoever. Like, where's it at? They should, if they have it, then they again, by calling Perlmutter and not preparing her properly. It's disgusting to me that, you know, how unprofessional she was of just literally of reviewing what the defense wanted her to see, and not even looking at Richard Allen at all, not even going. And then for her to make a statement like that anthropological methodologies is completely different than, yeah, it is. You know what, though? We live in a Western culture. Even those that are practicing paganism of any kind, that like, or witchcraft of any kind, that literally that grew up in the United States in a civilized society, like the only relevance that an anthropological forensic should have in a homicide is if, like I keep saying, is if you transplanted a village from Guyana or Benin or Laos into our civilized, and we were trying to understand why they kill their children, because they still do those types of things in these villages. And I did a whole, follow this investigative journalist, did a whole report on it, you know, like that's when she could, help us to understand why this ritualistic sacrifice in witchcraft that applies to them, because this is what they do. This isn't, to them, this is not intentional murder. This isn't just seeking someone out to kill them just to kill them. This is they don't view it like that. So her testimony would be real relevant, but not in Western culture whatsoever. And for her to show the amount of just, on one hand, just like arrogance, and then on the other hand of just like unprofessionalism as a person that says they are literally given their what was it called, by the United States government. Like that's where they get their authority, is from the United States government. That she would represent herself in this way, and in all the other cases, because I have a whole nother document on her, a whole nother one on her. I didn't share it when I was live with Byrne because, you know, out of respect for his time. But yeah, like, we can read all of those. She contradicts herself. And then learning that she had prior knowledge that literally involves a case that was like being appealed on these white supremacists, like this specific group of them that keep changing their name because, you know, they usually get you know, like it's a federal thing, like they lose their, so they change their name, like, oh, look at us, like we're not racist anymore. Yeah, you are. But yeah, look up American Guard in case text, or in Dr. Perlmutter, American Guard. Like, And for her to testify on behalf of like Antifa was a weird thing too. But just like the randomness of the other things that she said that are, oh, like, oh yeah, she's willing to testify. And it was like, yeah, no, like these two drug addicts are not, this is, you can't apply your methodologies here. It's super weird. Like, or this other one where this complete domestically violent freaking cult type, like sadist, was doing these things because his dad was from, like, it was a act of like his culture to do these things to these two people, because his dad was, like, even though he grew up in the United States, his dad grew up in, in the Middle East somewhere, and it's a part of their Islamic culture. So this is like an Islamic, spin to this to get the culpability of this monster. Like, that she's willing to testify to things like that is just buck ass wild. I've never disagreed with his take on things, and I disagree with them. He's usually spot on. So maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Yes, Grayu says that the crime scene is not at all what we have been shown on that diagram. He's usually pretty accurate on his information. Remind me again, like, I do see you commenting over in Sarah, right? Crispy Treat? Or am I confusing you with someone else? And Kat? KDK? I'm super cool that you guys know a bunch about this case, though. I love it. He's usually pretty accurate in his information. He also traveled there, etc. I didn't agree with him. So you didn't agree with Gray? Yeah, it is. And like, that's what I started to do earlier, was like, just from seeing, one image and then one zoomed in image is not representative of the images that were taken of this scene. So we are getting a bird's eye, like literally, I'm going to go like, what is less than a bird's eye view of what this crime scene actually looked like, right? But just based on that alone, what is evident is that there is a distinct dichotomy of the way that Libby was left versus the way that Abby was left. And other killers have done this, where they leave their victim in a way, they move them to a position that is open, revealing, shocking, because it's in their mind, and they, like, y'all probably read and listened to a lot of Dr. Carlisle, like literally the OG of this particular understanding the human mind of these like serial offenders, and not just killers, just serial offenders or murderers, and all of the greats of the OGs of Ann Burgess. I've read all of the books. Like, there's plenty of talk about that, about it's not enough for them to just humiliate this person in the way that they were killed at the time they were killed, but they have to do it afterwards. Like, they want to humiliate this person even in death. And that can't be more evident with the way that poor Libby was left out there like that. Like, sticks or not, just and the way that the difference between the way that Abby was left. Like, that alone, that says something. I don't know what it says, but it says something. Just strip everything else away that you've heard. That says something. Maybe one can be an undoing. And if there is like recorded or letter or like documented evidence to back up what the state said about him saying that he was sorry for what he did to Abby, whoa. But yeah, I can't get down with this being an undoing. That the sticks and the way that he covered Libby's neck wounds was an undoing. Absolutely not. Like, I don't know how someone could just jump on that. I would have to hear way more from her depot than that. And I just cannot see a experienced criminal profiler, like, no, they're not even called that anymore, like like behavioral analysis, to look at that one, even that, just that one image of how they were left and be like, yep, it's an undoing. No, it's not. Could the carelessness, he just like didn't care? Because that could be a thing too. Like I said, like Abby, he could just been pulling Abby by both hands instead of one, but I don't know. There seems to be something moved and staged about it. And yeah, yeah, disrespect the victim and shock the investigators who finds him. And remember how, like, Carter, yeah, he said, he got very emotional. And he said, how you left them in those woods it's not how they are today. He wanted he wanted the killer to know that, because however they would at that time, we didn't know. We hadn't been given leaked crime scene photos that came from Westerman from the defense. Like, we hadn't, that none of that had happened. But that was a statement. And then if you add that to the trauma, like, look at Murphy, you know, like, just reading his testimony, like, how horrible, like, it, all of the pictures together, plus plus the autopsy photos, it must be really, really, really bad. And from the little that we can see, it was a horrible, absolutely horrible. But other than that, and like trying to understand and to say that, oh, well, the Western, they're just only looking at personality disorders and psychopathology. Yeah, that's my whole point, lady. Like, there are plenty of rituals up in the DSM, that are outside of the religious connotation that anthropological methodologies would require, which is an origin based in this, so that other people outside of this would be able to understand it. It's buck ass wild. Hey, GP. My opinion, I think he just threw the sticks over them to try to cover them up because he heard somebody yelling. Yeah. And we know that, like, I was kind of talking about this in a group of just like, well, with the way that he left, the like, from where he was seen, did he try to get, like, why did he park there? You know, why didn't he park at the cemetery? Well, maybe someone was there visiting. Maybe he knew that Ron was, because we had someone in another group, and you could verify who she was and where she lived and Beacon and everything, and then later find out who her sons actually were, because of the relevancy that they play in the life of Garrett Kurtz, and like that Ron Logan ran her kids off of his property. Like, he watched that property, and like he would see them trying to get through the cemetery. Like, that's all Ron Logan can see. He would, if he saw people trying to cut through that cemetery to get to a shortcut to the creek area, he would come out and yell at them. That's what she said. So could he have known that? Like, and then to park at the CPS building, hell, that's where I'd park. when I go hiking, I am like, if I even went hiking out there, like, I'm getting off of that damn trail. That's the first thing I'm gonna do. But you know where is a trail that I would definitely follow is the deer tracks all up along that one side. But like now it's paved, like that's not hiking to me. Like, get me past this Freedom Bridge, get me past this parking lot and this Freedom Bridge, get me the fastest access I have to the trails to where I can actually go off and do actual hiking that's not on these damn trails, these big paved trails. Just from someone that likes to hike, that's my perspective on why someone would park there. Like the Mary Gerard, it's not very big, like I'd definitely be trying to park there because that would get me even closer to what I really want to do out there, which was hike and not like walk around a trail. That's just me. But did he try to come up that way along that side of the creek? And he heard, what are we just going to call her? CM on the bridge because she has actual photos of when she was out there. And then, she says that she saw, and they also have their supportive evidence to all this and witnesses, and they didn't witness anything that day, but they do witness to what they didn't see and didn't hear, which is very relevant. And they'll probably be a part of this jury trial. And there was like 4 of them. And then you have Derek German arriving. And then you have her family arriving. Did CM did he hear her or see her? So he had to cut out from trying to get back to his car through that little patch of woods, which, I mean, it's not really that great a coverage. It's a pretty small strip with no leaves on the trees in February. You can see right through to the road from the trail. The trail that runs from High Bridge past Mary Gerard down to the little memorial thing that will get you over to the other parking lot that they've designated. It's a far walk of stuff that I don't want to see. I don't want to see 25. Like, I mean, it's pretty to look at the bridge. Like, I don't need to walk on it. I know it's historical value, but like to walk all the way across it and do all of this before I even get to what I want to do. No, I'm going to cut that right out. I'm going to go park closer. Does that make sense? Like, does any other hikers out here agree with me on that? Like, even at home, if I want to go out to, there's trails and woods close to my house. I'll freaking I live real close to these too. I'll drive my car down there. So I'm not expending energy on seeing houses and regular shit. Like, I want to be in nature as quick as possible, and that's where I want to expend my energy. I don't want to waste it walking a fourth of a mile there, even if it is just fourth of a mile. Like, I don't want to do that. I want to save all my energy for being on a hike. But that's not really relevant to anything we're talking about. No, he didn't. There is no antlers. There's absolutely no antlers. There isn't. There's no antlers. That's the crazy ass thing, is the depictions that people put out put antlers. But the photos that were leaked, even from the defense, there is no antlers. Like on Abby. It's just not there. It's crazy to me that person would put out a watercolor filtered picture, but to go to the trouble of adding the things that she did, that's disgusting. It's the most mischaracterization and misleading of the actual evidence. There's no freaking antlers, but they need antlers to be there because of the EF guy. See, that's what I heard, was that the crime scene. Yeah, no. It's I've seen them. It's not there. It's just not. If it was, I would say but there is nothing. And I mean, I live in Indiana. I hike, and when we go out, like we go to, you can look it up, Midwest XC and IXRC circuits in Indiana. And almost every time, like now I'm a little older and I'm having some issues this past, this year especially, some health issues, so I don't get to go as much. But I've hiked all across Indiana. And in the fall, especially because that's when these races are. This is quad races in the woods. Like there's no path, there's a track, there's like a dirt, path through the woods. But when you're going there as an spectator, you're making your own paths. So what is visible in Abby's hair is just, it's debris from the forest ground floor. And like they're like, oh my gosh, this tree was cut. So it was intentionally like cut or brought here by the killer. I've been out there. Like there's all kinds of trees that look weird to me. All around in like a big radius of this crime scene, there's all kinds of trees that look weird. And then I was like, oh, what's that? Oh, come to find out, that's just where, well, there's deer out there with their antlers for one. And then you can see where the water was at certain times based on the bark on the trees, because it does grow back. Like if you take bark over, it does grow back, but it takes a very long time. And so there's trees out there like that. There's some that are just like, this is weird. Like, where's this tree? Like, it's just like a long, 6 foot tall. And then it just like looks like it was cut off. Just like, what's going on here? But again, I've seen these in other places. It was just like, must have fell, and like it just so happened to fall to where it didn't look very splintered. So this kind of looks like this tree just ends right there, like it's because in the fall there's no leaves or anything. So like you have to take all of those things into consideration. But there's just they're called something. I can't remember what they're called. I want to say like brambles. But the what's in her hair, it's a specific thing that I've seen before in the woods. I don't know what it's called. But there's leaves and there's these little things. They're like they're just on forest floors. It's just all there is to it. And if you're dragging someone, again like this, you're gonna get the forest floor in their hair, in their ponytail. I should really make a trip to Delphi. I just haven't wanted to go by myself, really. Yeah. The last time I went, I swore off going again. Really, like I have considered it several times for Randy, but to actually go. And I have a completely different like take. Like other people that went out there, just like, oh my god, you could still feel the evil in the, And I was like, when I went there, I was like, man, this place is so peaceful and happy, and like they're not here, like they're not here. And that was like all I picked up from being at the crime scene in the surrounding area of the crime scene was like, it's beautiful. With the way the sun comes in on the trees, like I think that's significant. I think that the little clearing area is significant. I do think that is the easiest place to get up to the creek bank, so that just makes logical sense. But like, there's some things that are significant that I would want to take a picture of, and I would want to know why. But MO isn't really, we don't. A lot of times we're not afforded that information. Even when a killer confesses and pleads, like they plead guilty to the crime. Like I've been to 2 and they didn't say a damn word. So we don't know the particulars. We don't know why he did what he did. Either one of the two he's. They just pled guilty, and the judge was like, "How do you plead to these charges?" Guilty. The end. Like, we didn't get to know why. We didn't get to hear like the particulars of the case or what was going through this person's head. They just said guilty. How do you plead? Guilty. Okay, moving right along. Like, um, Spriggs. Um, that's closer. You can't cherry pick which confessions you believe. If Are you talking about Elvis Fields versus Richard Allen? Because I'm not cherry picking anything. That's the pro Allen crew that's doing that. All I'm saying is there's no antlers in her hair. I've seen the pictures. You're not going to get a reasonable jury to agree with there's antlers in her hair either, even though the defense has purported that, and even though people online had purposely put antlers in the photos that they put a watercolor on. That's not all she did. Anybody that's seen the actual photos knows that's not all that chick did. But to me, it looks like that the Free Allen crew is cherry picking Elvis Fields' confession and putting a lot more validity into this one man's confession, supposed confession of spit. You know what? Why didn't the defense offer to prove anything about that? Like, what did Kevin Murphy say? Like, what did Todd Click say? Like, it's not there. And like, by continuously trying to like, oh, well, this one, like, you can look it up. Like, people do confess, which also plays into a factor into the validity of Richard Allen's, you know, confessions, as well as EF. Oh, I didn't see Sand Dollar. Let's see what Sand Dollar. No antlers. Yeah, no. That's the last comment I see, Jenny. So someone confesses they put sticks in Abby's hair, and yes, there were sticks in her hair. No, that's definitely not enough. He said he put sticks in her hair to make it look like antlers, not just like sticks in her hair. Well, crispy treat, this is the thing. If you look at other cases where, say, they have had the phone pinged, the last location is here. So they search, they set up search parameters around that, and they go out from a radius. And the search dogs and I took the certification, and I'm like, well, the way you're supposed to search is like a very like grid type. So, that's not really what was done out there, for one. But you know how many times like this? So this victim has the first day one, when they're reported missing, maybe within like 1 to 3 days. There's a specific case that I'm thinking of, but I'm not going to remember the name. It was a guy, and I mean, there's been so many. There literally has been so many, and even some that aren't actually cases that have more to do with like the Appalachian Trail, because I do like to, you know, um, keep up with that and to see with patterns within those types of places. But they'll do these searches. The dogs won't find anything. The people won't find anything. And then sometimes months, sometimes years down the road, a mushroom hunter finds the body and it was there the whole time. You know, they can tell that based on the skeletal remains, all different types of things that they base that on, and they were just right there, right under their noses the whole time. It just happened in the Olivia, why is her last name? I just covered it with her aunt in Texas. Like, her body was so close, the whole time. And they'd searched out there, so it's totally possible. It sounds so unlikely, but I just know that the clip where because the news were already out there that night, and when they're out there and they're like, this is when people really started to show up, because you have to take into consideration when it gets dark in Indiana and at that time of year, and that there's no artificial source of light, albeit the flashlights that were out there. But you can literally see with them like in the video, like all you see is like little bits of a flashlight. So depending on the power of a flashlight, like I have a few different ones, and I have ones that they're going to light up an area like a circumference of this, and like a cast off of maybe at the most, I would give the one I have that's more heavy duty, a cast off of like 6 feet in front of me. Like that would be my window of what I could see. Now that doesn't include what I'm going to miss. If I'm looking out here, I'm not going to see because this is dark, but my flashlight, because I'm holding it like this, is going to shine out 6 feet at most. So, I mean, because I agree, like at first thought and glance was like, how in the hell could they miss them? How in the hell could they miss them? But again, it happens all the time, in even more in even more areas, like in a house, like how in the hell they miss that little girl? The one I was just telling Mr. Steve about. That's crazy. That's crazy. A whole little child tucked up, and you've seen it. That's come up in other cases. The one where they suspected the parents, they got search warrants for the house, and they searched that house upside and down. And then it wasn't until later, like she was discovered, like they had hid her body like inside of the couch, like inside the springs of the couch, and made it look like, and then obviously, like, when they searched at a later time, they found the little girl's body in this house inside of this couch, to where they had done searches before and they missed her. They missed finding her. When you think, how outlandish is that? Like, did they take the cushions off of the couch? Surely they did. Did they not notice that there was like a rip right here? And like, this would be a logical place to hide a child? Apparently not. Underneath mattresses. There was one, I just saw it. It was horrible. And this killer at a hotel, how the base of the beds are, like you have the mattress and then there's like that base. And then, and like he stuffed this woman that he had brutally murdered underneath that part of a hotel bed. So then the mattress was like a plywood thing and then like a mattress, but there was like a base. You put her inside of there, and the cleaning people didn't find anything. The people that kept staying in this particular room after this person started to smell, they were like, "What is this?" They moved rooms. So then the cleaning people would come back in. Management had come in, and they're like, "What is this smell?" They were doing they had that place cleaned like several times. They were putting up, different things to mask the scent. And finally, someone was like, I think it was like a poor couple that had rented out the room or something, and they discovered, like that's they months later, they finally discovered this woman that's been missing underneath this bed where she was the last person that she was seen alive with, and like they just didn't find her body. That's crazy, but it happens. Yeah, and he even stated that, like, he regretted doing that, and I think he regretted doing that more for, would those dogs been able to trace, you know, because if say the killer took, we from what we have so far, like it seems like he could have possibly taken something. The knife wasn't, we're not hearing, I think if the knife was there, we'd been done hearing about it. The ascent from that and follow, like, I think he regrets it for many reasons, but and also, does talk about, like, especially with outdoor crime scenes, are very hard to preserve, because of the nature of being outdoors. There's so many factors that when we just hear one little snippet of a factor that you need to take a step back at and look at as a whole, and the impact that that has as a whole in its totality, in its um, investigative, like, discovery of this piece plus this piece plus this piece. Okay, so there's this one main piece of evidence, and then there's these other supporting that support that particular evidence, like, that's what makes up a trial. And what I just find really sad is, like, there's people that I know that they're just like me, and they're like huge, you know, nerds when it comes to reading appeals and um watching other cases, jury trials and stuff. Like, and that we can have such a differing opinion on stuff is like really, well, I understand it for people that I've been true crime since the 80s, like, this is deep for me. This isn't just Delphi, even though Delphi was obviously the one that impacted me emotionally the most, which is disgusting. I don't even like to say that because, like, it's didn't impact. It wasn't my child. It's horrible, but like definitely changed things, because my child was the same age as Libby, looked so much like her that when I started saving, pictures to share of Libby, my phone puts them in the folder, like how your phone saves like a face, puts Libby's face in with my daughter when she was that age. Obviously not now, because Libby didn't get a chance to grow up and be 22 like my daughter. So that, like, that always hits home because I have a living, and I'm so grateful. And I can't imagine if I'd had to live these years without her like they did, because they're the same age, same grade, same body type, same like natural athleticism. Like, my daughter was built like she's been playing volleyball and you know, lacrosse her whole life. She just like naturally built like an athlete, and just so muscular, unlike myself. And then her face, her hair color, her face, her best friend was a redhead, it was just like, wow, like this doesn't happen. It's a one that is always going to be close to my heart. But I was drawn here in the 80s because of my aunt being murdered. I've been around here for way long, and I know some of these people that I can tell, like they don't cover, they don't like, they're not looking into, they're just like this case or like maybe a few hot take ones, that are popular at the time, but they're not like diving into the whole true crime genre. Like you can just tell, like it is something that, I did from the library until today, and I've never stopped. It's just like Joe Couch, they weren't allowed to search at night because of the terrain. More people could have been hurt. Yeah, I mean, it's just a simple thing of liability, and they didn't go home. It was just like officially called off because it's dangerous out there. There's places like right on the, oh, I'm terrible with north and south, but the closest to Mary Gerard Trail of like where you would get on the bridge, like right there. If you walk off that trail and you go, if you're facing the bridge and you go to the left, there is if you fall off that, like you're going to be seriously injured, paralyzed, or dead. Like it is a very steep incline, let alone the bridge. Like you don't fall off that thing in most places on it and survive unless you're at the far end, maybe. But like there's the terrain out there may not be, the Rocky Mountains, but it's a liability for sure because it's dark, dark, dark. Yeah. And that's what he says. He regrets it. I don't understand um, hey, I recognize your name. Garuda. Nope. You're still alive. I know I am. I'm getting off. Thanks for hopping over here. I definitely recognize your name from Sarah. All right. I got off on every time get off on a rabbit trail, but that's the thing is I even recognize it, even though I appreciate it. Like I recognize that me reading these, that's not like me making it anything other than just reading you what the courts what the court and the defense and the state have said back and forth each other for months and months, is boring as hell, you know? But and people don't care about it. Like they just want you to like make them like in something to be interesting. And I get that. I do too. But at the end of the day, it's not, what difference would I be versus what I've been trying to get people to stop just blindly following if I just told you what I think and not like read you the documents and what the defense says and the state says. And soon we're going to get into the orders of the judge, and I just told you what I think these motions mean, like, whilst trying to, like, you know, get you to believe something different without actually, like, it's finding that the value in the actual documents and in the testimonies and the transcripts of the testimonies. Like, I don't have the right to do that. But like as we read, of course, I throw in my opinion, and even in this article, I always make what I'm saying a different color, you know. But just mostly they're just questions, like logical questions. Sure, everybody wants to know, like, is there a digital footprint of Richard Allen? And I don't, like I said, even for a digital footprint of the killer, I'm going to need some supportive evidence, because there's a particular person that I know that has multiple cell phones, burner phones. And for, like, you're just going to have to give me more than the cell phone data of the person. Like if it doesn't show them, like the one case where, freaking name. I think the victim's last name was Rosales. It was a cop. He killed just like a cop, but in the reserves, and he killed this, so beautiful, like 15-year-old girl. Like he was like the apartment watch guy, and he murdered her, and it was just the Live 360 one, and good night. Just horrible. And this is a cop, and he made some of the dumbest ass mistakes ever that you're just like, wow. And then you're just like, why did it take so long to solve this, like this idiot? Like, why did it take them so long? Like, this guy is a freaking, like the gun that he, like leaves it out there. Like, what? Like, what are you thinking? And then like wakes up the next day and like reports it stolen real quick. It was just like all of these little particulars that when you see them all together, because you've watched like the whole trial, you're just like, wow. They didn't have time of death in that one either. Just saying. So we left off right here at the May 20th. So I'll mark this and do this another day. I can't anymore. I let myself get off on the whole rabbit trail. All right. What is this? I have a guest. How did you get here, sir? Are you real?
Hi.
What are you doing?
What? I saw you were live and I saw the address to call in. I was like, let me just say hello real quick.
Aw, I love that. How is what are you, the YBA?
No, I finally figured out what that was. It was YouTube Bad Actors was the other person's screen name that you were, I guess, shortening.
Oh, I thought it was, I didn't
was
even know I shortened it. Like because you're a YouTube badass. I was checking out your store not too long ago, right after I asked you if you were going live today.
Thank
your
you.
merch store with the Cooking with Strangers. When's that going to happen?
Good question. I have 10 episodes. I haven't finished editing even the first one, so.
Yeah, I can't cook at all. So if we cook together when you come into town, that would just be. I have a perfect kitchen for not my own kitchen, but someone else's. I could force her to allow us in it.
Okay, well, we'll see what happens. So what are your thoughts on the digital forensics? What do you think about Rick's phone and the stock ticker stuff? Like, what do you think it's going to show or not?
I mean, there's nothing. This is just my, opining, but I don't think I don't know. I just have a feeling that he left his phone at home. I don't know why. Or he used another phone, like something.
Well, it's not been referenced at all in anything publicly yet.
And and why? The defense has they don't benefit from his phone, telling us, the public, anything that doesn't go along with what they're trying to get us to believe, based on the things that they're lawyering around. But the state has no obligation to try its prosecution in the eyes of the public opinion.
Yeah.
So people are so upset about well, why didn't the state well, they have given us some little tidbits. And then the press conferences, well, they got all these press, that is the dumbest thing ever. I'm just like, are you kidding me? Did you listen to those press conferences? They do the same thing. They really have kept a tight lip on this investigation. And until the jury is there and picked and the days are going through, we're not going to know shit. And they don't have an obligation to tell us anything.
And the defense said that
recently. They don't have anything.
Well, the defense said recently that there's a lot of stuff that will come out at the trial that Rick will not be able to get a unbiased jury if there's a second trial. So it seems to indicate that there might be stuff that they said there's a lot of stuff that's not publicly known. So I guess we'll have to wait for another month or so, or 3 weeks from tomorrow, I guess.
Yeah. Are you going to go?
I doubt it. I mean, I can't afford to go to Indiana for a month.
I know you already came here for a while.
I know, and I was disappointed, and it was canceled the day before. So I don't want to buy a place to stay, and then Rick says, "Oh, it's tomorrow. Let me make a plea deal."
Yeah, because you never know, or for it to get delayed. I mean, it doesn't look like, but you never know. I've seen it happen before. I mean, there's some trials that have been on the books for years and years and years. One I found that was even close to a decade in adjudication, but in confinement. That's crazy.
Well, I've referenced before Indianapolis. Pastor Davy Blackburn and Amanda Blackburn, who got killed.
Okay, yeah.
You remember that?
I do. I mean, not I couldn't dive right in, but I remember the names and them being a pastor.
So it was a group of 3 young guys, and they did not, or the one guy who shot her did not have his trial for 6 years, even though they caught him within the first few weeks.
Yeah. It seems outlandish, 6 years. And so, but caught that quickly. And I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of people out here that are they just have a purpose for what they're doing, and it's very misleading. That's why I appreciate you. It's your spreadsheets and keeping track of all the, and I don't know. I don't know why you don't have a shirt that says, I don't know. You need to make that your because that's your best line. You do it all the time, especially when you're nervous. You're like, I don't know. I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to act like I know all the answers, because obviously a lot of us don't.
Right. That's why I love it, because it's so fitting. Right. But it's also a nervous tick type of thing. But it's a super fitting one, because I don't know. But you'll do that just like I say, you'll be like, I don't know. I've always loved that, because it's just the fittingness of it. We don't know. And a bunch of people out here are trying to get people that to believe that they do. And that's sad. It's unfortunate, and it's anti-justice. So
this entire case, the online part of it at least, has not been very good, to say the least.
No, not at all. Not 1 ounce. I'm gonna go.
Well, I just wanted to say hi real quick, and
so I'll keep you posted of when I go to the trial, because I'm gonna go. But I did the same thing. I was like, well, I just let everyone know, hey, I'll do you sometime this week, but it may not be, well, I should rephrase that. Do you sounds like I'm a prostitute. I'm not. Like my clients, like I'm going to get you in this week. But once the jury is picked and I found out the flow schedule of the trial, there are some parts that I don't care to miss because I don't, they'll just be, I'll do your hair on that day. But if I find out the Dr. Kors is testifying that day, like I'm canceling and moving you to the next day. So
yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with the first few days of the prosecution presenting that it's obvious that Rick maybe is definitely guilty, depending on how much evidence they truly do have.
I think it'll be a little later because like trial court, they're a crescendo because you got to get all of the little lead up. Oh, we took this report, just like all of the, the first on scene or like they'll probably follow like with witnesses and stuff, like those will come up and then, but I think as it gets deeper into those days, it's going to get, because they also have a month to drag this out. Like,
well, part of that was with the defense saying they needed 2 weeks to present their ownness theory.
Yeah, no, they can't
do that. So maybe it's only going to be a 3-week trial.
Yeah. They did that to themselves on the third party. How do you feel about that as far as ineffectiveness of counsel from just shooting themselves right in the foot by naming a certain group of individuals and going even farther as to name them as far as third party?
Well, I mean, in their defense filings, they said there's significant evidence that PW and BH were involved in the murder. So
where was that shown?
That was in at least 2 different defense filings. They said.
Oh, I know it was in there, but where's the offer of proof of that?
There's not. I mean,
other than Perlmutter, which is a disgrace to professionalism across the experts of the United States of America. That made me so mad.
Yeah, she definitely seemed to be pretty dead set on it being related to at least ritualistic killing.
Okay, well, then don't go into specifics of what are the distinct differences between archaeological forensics versus Western behavioral analysis, because you played yourself with that. Because when someone actually looks up what archaeological forensics is, they find that it really doesn't apply to someone that is born and raised in a Western culture. It doesn't apply in homicide. What are you doing back there, Buster?
Yeah, I mean, I've said a lot of times there are certain suspicious things about some of these Odinist guys, but to prove that they like did this grand scheme in the woods and did a sacrificial murder of these 2 girls, I've never seen anything in. There we go. What? I've never seen anything from the defense to prove that to me as like a member of the jury. So I just think it would be wasting the time. And I think Gull was correct in denying it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's been some things that I didn't really like. And then I realized that I hadn't read one of her whole entire order, one of her most detailed orders of the whole case. Somehow I missed it probably when I was taking a couple weeks off, because you can't do that with this case when you're reading the court documents, and I missed the entire thing. And it talks about, like, she brings up that the hearing where there was cameras, obviously that's one in Allen County, which is a whole different, very like a much more sophisticated system for recording, the live. But she states in there that the media didn't do what she thought, like what they said, like what their orders were for that footage. Like, so I've not heard a single one talking, like what did they do that I've just heard, like she only, and I'm one of them. She only did the cameras on this one time, and that's suspicious, which I still think it is, but at least it adds a little bit of like why she was like, no, I gave y'all a chance and you, the media, didn't follow the orders that I had set out. Therefore, I've lost trust in you.
Well,
I
I
mean,
guess the camera pointed towards the gallery, and I wasn't sure if she was upset about that.
oh, I bet. Yeah. I don't remember any other source like cameras like that for source access. I point at the gallery. Woo.
Well, I don't know that it's anything wrong that to show who's there. I mean, I know in the Alex Murdaugh trial, they always showed the attorneys and who was in the gallery.
I guess they do in other. I've seen that in other ones, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not cool that so many people have to like figure out a way to actually get access to this case.
Oh, I know. I think it's I think it's to the detriment of it, really. Look at all the madness that because of not allowing cameras in the courtroom, look at all the madness that is created. Do you really think it would be worse? Because I don't. I think there would be a lot of other people out there, like reasonable people that wouldn't be able to influence with the way that I read these and the inflection I put on the importance of certain A, B, C, and D without actually being there. Like, I think that a lot of reasonable people would not be able to be as easily persuaded by, the different extremes of what this case has created in the online area, Like I really think that. But what does that mean? Nothing.
We'll see. I just hope that there's a resolution for everybody involved, like the families
Right.
and Richard Allen and his family. So, I mean, it's been almost 8 years. Hopefully,
Yeah.
there's finally going to be a resolution and no more delays. Whether he gets convicted and appeals, that's another thing. But hopefully, the truth will finally come out for the families and the community.
I hope so. And I don't know if you know what I mean, but like a conclusive, like there isn't this niggling of like doubt.
Hmm.
Because when you look at this guy on the surface, you're just like, what? Like, could this really have been the guy this whole time? Because
Hmm.
we've all built it up in our head and we want this like big thing. And then it's this guy from CBS that's been standing by his picture. I think there's legitimate psychological reasons why that is a completely possible thing. My mother is a prime example of a compartmentalizer. Like something horrible can happen. And that now that she's in her older age, somehow they're sneaking back out. And like she'll tell, like the other day, she told me about her, like a legit story. They're dead now, but her aunt, who I thought was like her aunt, was actually the mistress. And this is holler people, I'll mind you, okay? This is Hatfield McCoy holler people. She killed the wife, the original wife, that is actually the mother of the kids that I grew up with, by pouring turpentine on her. Like, I'm
Wow.
like, where is what? And my mom's just like, just rattling it off like it's a normal thing you do at all. And I'm like, whoa, what? And then I can see it like hitting my mom, the emotions of like having to be a teenager and like growing up with this, like knowing this, but like nobody doing anything about it. And you're not old enough to do anything about it. And you can like physically see it come over her, that it registers with her, the shock of like, or her telling me about her job because she worked for the Hatfields. And I just thought she cleaned their house and, maybe cooked some food. No, she buried bodies. Like, I'm like, Mom, like, you left that whole part out. Like, that's so traumatizing. You were just a little kid. And then you can see it hit her, and then she puts it back in a box. You can literally see the box close, and then she moves on with her life. And like, you would never know that my mom has been through anything.
Hmm.
So it's completely possible for a killer that isn't a serial, to compartmentalize their crime, put it in a little box, close it, pretend like that wasn't them that did that, close it off, and move on, psychologically move on. And then when they're confronted with it, they have an emotional breakdown. Like, that's a completely plausible thing to think in this case with Richard Allen.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to find out, if we even do find out, how did he act after the murders, even the days, weeks, months, and 2019 when he supposedly went to, not supposedly, it's been confirmed he went to some kind of mental facility.
Yeah. Was that after? What was that presser in April? April?
It was April 2019.
Yeah. Was that after April? Because I think that was the whole purpose of the April 2019 presser. It was to get to make the killer feel uncomfortable so that he does something out of character so that they can get a fresh lead from that. And I think that there's some supportive evidence of that in the amount of people they were pulling over, the amount of cops they had out there after that presser released in the days following that presser. Because there's, tickets galore. And that's just the people that they ticketed, not just the people that they pulled over and looked at their, getting their information. See if they can rattle someone. Because I think it's been long believed that this person had to have known this area, and probably did live here. So rattle someone and maybe they suddenly, leave. Maybe their house sells within a month, or maybe they end up in a psych ward.
Well, I mean, it's just crazy that he worked 1 block from the sheriff's office and they never put 2 and 2 together. I mean, obviously it's been said he's kind of short, so maybe they thought he could be and looked at him and we're like, no, he can't kill 2 kids.
I know. Like, and I just saw him. I was I was within, probably 6 feet at the most of him at the hearing, because we tried to walk into the guards that were guarding him to make sure he was safe. And people were like, "Oh my gosh, how dramatic that they have guard, a response, a transport team." I'm like, "Are you kidding me?" Do you want him to be shot by someone like Greeno showing up? Really? Do you want him to be taken out by someone attending the court hearings? This isn't, it's just not reasonable. Some of their things that they jump on to "Ooh, this poor little guy, he's got all these big burly men." I'm just like, "Oh my God, are you kidding me?" Of course he does. But he's, but again, the guy on the bridge, outside of knowing that it's Richard Allen, very unassuming for this area. If the guy wearing that outfit, dressed like that, dropped into the, New York City, they're going to stand out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting because I know it's going to be a part of the trial, the voice analysis and the video analysis. Because those are
weird.
Forensics. Yeah, no doubt. That's so weird. I don't know why, but obviously they're gonna do some. And I know I guess he could have been lying to me. I know a person that was questioned extensively for the Delphi case, and he said that it took so long because they kept having him walk around and say those words. And I was like, whoa, because I just was, basically setting them up to try to get as much information that I could send into the tip line as possible. That was my goal. And then I immediately made sure they knew my DNA was in GEDmatch, because all the things that they ask him are relevant, even if it's not him. So I just asked as many questions as I possibly could in this time span that I had to be around this person. And that was one of them. And I'm thinking that is so weird, because how could you, unless they take the suspect out to the bridge and record it in this particular season, how are you going to get a voice analysis off of that in a building? And that seems so weird to me.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear Rick's voice on the phone to his wife and mom to see if it does sound like Bridge Guy.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure they're going to play his confessions on the phone.
Yeah. I mean, I think that is, I don't, Burn after reading and I were talking about that, and like his is like their top 2 most important things, and ours was kind of backwards. I'm like, those are secondary to me. You know, I want to see the state's case before he testified. And because there are investigative things that they're going to find out as it's waiting to be adjudicated. But like the confessions are secondary. And who knows how much weight we're going to put into that unless we've heard them.
And how much he truly reveals that only the killer would know.
Right. Yeah.
GP wants to know if, sorry, I'm reading your comment. GP wants to know if Rick glared at you when you were in the courtroom.
I didn't think so. He stared at me and it was uncomfortable. Like I have this in-law, like I don't know well, I guess that kind of does. And he's a starer. And it's like it makes people uncomfortable that don't know him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and he just lingers a little bit too long. He's not looking at like inappropriate, it's dead nuts in the eye. But it's just like this awkward, like, like, are we playing like some kind of like stare off here that I've accidentally stumbled upon? And like, so I know that about him now because I've been in his life for 17 years. But when people meet him, I can see them get, and that's the only feeling that I picked up from Richard Allen is that it was an awkward kind of like lingering too long, stare right in your eyes. So people are telling the truth about that. Like it was weird because I watched him do it to Frank Meister, who was on my left, and then he did it to me. And he's supposed to be walking straight. And the bar, you've been there, so the like how the birth of the marble steps as you go up to the.
I haven't been inside the courthouse.
Well, when you go up to like the each floor, the steps kind of spiral there because it's a rotunda, and they're very wide, and you know, and so the whole span of him walking past these steps, he's just staring at the 3 of us because we were made to stop. Apparently it's a really slow elevator, so you could make these spiral steps, these marble fancy spiral steps up to the 3rd floor by the time the elevator does too. So as we're, you know, getting to the top of the stairs, he's coming off of the elevator, and like the whole time he's walking past, he wasn't even looking straight at all. Didn't even glance that way one time. He just stared at the 3 of us. But I can't say that it was a evil, glaring, you know, like suspicious thing. It was
when
just
you were inside the courtroom, did he turn around and stare at people?
That was the day that it got canceled.
Oh, okay. You've never been to one where he was inside the courtroom?
No, I'm so mad at myself because I could have gone to these. I just don't. I let my anxiety of like public being in the public, you know, like, I don't know, like, and separate yourself from the YouTube space of being online. But then when you like go to these things, it's like it gives me anxiety. So I let that, but I could have attended them, and I'm mad at myself that I didn't. And that's why I'm gonna make myself do this. But that's why I went to that hearing, because it was like, this is a good way to get that part of my anxiety out of the way. Like, I know that I can be professional, and like, I don't need to tell people I hate them or like, I don't like you, you know, like I can do it. I proved that to myself already, even with Greeno, you know, like I can do it.
You're about to hit 3 hours, so I'll let you go.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me come on and chatting with me.
No, yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Always good to talk to you.
Have a good evening. Bye, everybody in the chat.
You too.
See you. Bye.
What an awesome surprise. I love him. He's so amazing. I just feel like there are a few people that, you know, you can just, in this community, that you can, oh my gosh, what is he doing now? Please don't. There you go. Look how split his face is. That's how some people can be too, just so you know, on the inside. He's so cute, but he's such a special needs guy. Oh, you want to get excited? Gabby. Hi, Bubs. Hi. You ready to go to bed? He's ready to go to bed. But yeah, that was so cool that he jumped on here. I have no idea how he did. So I'm gonna have to figure that out. It must have been something with the StreamYard, like the direct link thing I did. But that was an honor. But like him and True Crime, like True Crime Web, and like Tom, and I think they have a very useful, not saying they're detached completely, but they're able to look at things through a more so detached lens than I try to do, or other people that I would say fall into my category. Like sometimes with like criminality, I love her and I feel like I really can relate to her a lot. And like she tries really hard, which I do too, to be like objective. But sometimes it's just like you can't, like you just be, and she feels her certain ways and I feel mine, and I feel like there's always been a mutual respect there. But there's people like her, you know, that try their best, but that sometimes it's just like, ugh, to where with like Tom and True Crime Web, I feel like that's what they really add to the space, is that detached element of their coverage, and I appreciate that. And the spreadsheets, I'm so jealous. One of these days I'm going to go to the library and take one of those free classes and learn how to do spreadsheets. I have been practice writing, and it's what I've noticed is that the dyslexia part, even with reading, I noticed that with reading, the more tired I am, or the more bored I am, the less I can write. But my problem is I have to concentrate, and it's not getting any better. I've been practicing. I have to concentrate so hard on what I'm writing that I'm not able to remember very much at all. Like compared to me writing, you know, like I'll sit and even watch a show like a true crime documentary, and I'll type out notes and key things that I want to remember about this particular show. So I wrote those down, and now I don't remember the damn show that I watched. Even looking at my own notes, I can't recall the show because I was concentrating so hard on writing these damn notes. So that's not getting any better. So I'm still going to have that problem at court. I'm just going to have to sit there and find friends that I trust to take notes, because all I need is prompters. But it's just, it's not getting better. Ugh. I had an example. I'm just going to show you guys. Here's my notebook. Here it is. So someone took notes for me at a hearing that I went to. And I wrote this. This is a question, and I legit thought she was going, can you even read that? Or do I need to turn the camera? No, I can't. Wait, I have it upside down. Okay, can you read that, or do I need to now turn it back? I need to turn it back the other way now, right? I can read it, but I'm also have mirror image dyslexia. So can you read that? What symptoms? Can you read that? Okay, Katie, is it now? It's right side. You can see it because I turned it around. I'm gonna say yeah. So now I gotta look at it. So this is in the margins here. I got my hand over it. This is my question to her. And I really thought, I was like, why is she not answering me? I was so befuddled. I'm like, I remember like asking her for the notebook so I could like make sure that she like, oh my gosh, did you just hear that? And like, then like get this, like write this down for me. But yeah, that's what I wrote to her. And, and she was being nice and she was just kind of like, because we're in a court, you can't talk. So she was just like, like not letting on that she's like, oh my God, like what in the fuck is that? I was like, Aztec? Like, is that another language? Like, what is it? She didn't let on at all. And of course, in the moment, I could read it just fine. So I'm not understanding why she's not like, I'm like doing signs to her and she's like, like being really polite and kind. And like, I'm just like, why are you responding to my question in the margins? Like, don't you know, like that's what that margins are for when you're in, these kinds of things. Yeah. And then I got home that night to read off, because that's why she went with me, was to take notes at the sentencing hearing for Anthony Dabaya, the murderer of Nakota Kelly. And I get home and I'm just scrolling, I have my whole little script. I'm going over it on a live and I get to that. What in the actual F is this even say? It doesn't say anything. It doesn't say anything. I can make out a few letters like T's and H's, I think. There's not even a break. There's not, like, it's just all the words with no, you know what? I just had Nope, that didn't help. I don't think. I'll look at it later. Yeah, that didn't help. But yeah, I can still read stuff upside down really well. Not mirror image though, like what I was diagnosed with when I was a kid by a whole team of doctors. Is that MF in the end? Let's see. I think that's about the only thing that is identifiable. Actually, is the MF, and I probably do mean exactly what you think I mean, but I don't know. But that's why I don't take notes. I love notes. Do you have some from me too? Oh no. Sometimes if I really concentrate, like my handwriting is horrible. I'm like worse than a grade school boy. But if I concentrate really hard, I can, I do okay. But I mean, just the amount of time that it took me to write this one little note is ridiculous. But I can do it if I really concentrate on it. But if I'm not, listen, you're not going to it's not going to be anything you can read. So I've never even taken, like, I am a hairstylist and I've never written down one single formula in my whole career. I used to have someone that dictated for me when I had a job at a really high-end salon on the Indies North side here. And they quickly realized I can't write client cards. I can't fill out client cards with their formulas or anything. So I had someone that would, I would tell her them and she would write them in my client cards. Like, even though I couldn't use those to mix up their color next time, because I would have definitely mixed it up wrong. But no, but I can remember them all. No idea why. But yeah, I've never had a client card one. Not ever since after she was gone out of my life, this perfect dictator. I could just speak to her because this was before, this kind of communication in the 90s. But then it was just like, no. I had a whole stack of them I printed off thinking I was going to use them until the person came back in. And I was like, what? Because then I didn't need to remember it. And I had no idea what I had done on her last time because what I wrote down wasn't logical. It didn't make any sense in the formulas that I would know in my head. Like, there was not a formula. But I'll see people out in public that I've done their hair for years. And I'll literally, sometimes I've said it out loud. Like, I'll forget their name, but I'll be like 7N, half a milligram plus 8 kg, fourth plus, 20 volume. And like, I'll go through their whole formula but I won't remember their name, but I just, even if I've not done their hair in forever, I'll know their formula as soon as I see them. Chicken peckers. Well, yeah, hen scratching, like it doesn't even make any sense. All right, I'm going to sign off because it has been I've been on here for 5 hours. More than that. That's ridiculous. My ass hurts. And my dog is really not wanting. He wants to go to bed. He's letting me know he's not very happy. He's so cute. Something. All right. Good night, everybody. Thank you so much for being here.